Hi, I'm Casey.
And I'm Gianni.
I never finished reading the Animorphs books as a kid, and I still haven't as an adult.
And I've never read them.
We can't tell you where we live.
But we can tell you that we want to revisit these books as adults and dive into what we would keep or change if we were to put it on TV.
Two friends, 50-something books. Welcome to morphinbuddies.
And then the music kicks in, and then people are just so ready.
Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of Morphinbuddies with me, your host, Casey Cisnowski, and Mr. Gianni DeMaio across from me.
Yo, what's that music? Is that
Yo.
the dude who your neighbor?
Oh, is that you hear saxophone guy?
I hear him. Yeah, I don't normally hear him, but he's jamming today.
Yeah, he's. Let me lift up the microphone here a sec. Maybe you can.
Yeah, he's rocking.
Oh, of course
wow.
he stopped. He stopped right after the microphone went high up into the air. He said,
Bummer.
"No, not today." Oh, he just started again. Well,
he hears you.
He's like, "Not for you, Gianni."
Yeah, what the hell, man?
Yeah. So today we're talking about book 17, The Underground, in which Rachel's turning into a little bat on the cover of the book.
She sure is. Yeah. The cover of this book should have been a mole, though. I felt like the mole was far more consequential, but what do I know?
I thought the same thing when reading this book. Gianni, what was this? What was this? Why was this? What?
You know, I've been asking myself that every single time we read any of these books, to be honest with you. But I mean, in a good way sometimes, and then, other times in a less good way.
Yeah, I just, when I was reading this book, the beginning, I was, into it, and I was like, all right, cool. Little weird, not weird, little, unrealistic, shall we say, in the very beginning.
What?
But okay, I'm here for it. It's fun.
Come on.
I'm here for it. It's fun. It's good old Morphin Buddy fun. And then, the oatmeal just came in. And I was like, how did we get here?
Never stopped
And then
coming.
it got worse. It just kept getting worse.
Yeah.
To the point where I was like, what is this? What are we doing here?
Yeah. It's so funny because the book, I feel like, tries so hard to be like, now hear me out. It spends the whole duration of it being like, no, this is not an advertisement for instant oatmeal. This is its own unique plot device. I
have a question. Mm-hmm. Is there a maple and ginger instant oatmeal? Because I've never heard of maple and ginger oatmeal.
I think the last time I ate oatmeal was probably when this book came out, so I really couldn't tell you.
1998.
I'm not an oatmeal connoisseur by any stretch of the imagination, so I really cannot say for certain. I mean, maybe it sounds reasonable, but the book just spends its whole time being like, hey, no. This is a real plot device. And then it gets to the end of the book, and I'm pretty sure it's the actual last line of the book that says, and that was the first and last time that oatmeal was ever involved in the Yeerk War. I'm paraphrasing, but the first and last is definitely a part of that phrasing. And I think that if that's the case, what the fuck was the point? What were we thinking? And my only explanation the only thing that really comes to mind is that Big Oatmeal was like
threatening K.A. Applegate.
You need to get us our sponsorship. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any other reason for why it's such a fixture. I don't remember oatmeal having its big talons in pop culture in the 90s. I mean, I guess
really.
I ate oatmeal. I definitely ate oatmeal as a child, but again, I don't remember it being. I mean, it's not like it had advertisements.
They did have the oatmeal with the dinosaur eggs, and then when you put the water in, the eggs hatched into dinosaurs.
That's the only time I ever distinctly remember seeing, like, an advertisement for oatmeal.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm sure it was a consideration if this was, in fact, all an ad. Because she had to have been like, I draw the line at calling it dino oatmeal. And they were like, fine, we'll let you just call it regular oatmeal as long as the ad. The book lives and dies on you taking this plot device seriously, and at the end, the book can't even take it seriously. So, I just don't understand what the whole thing was for.
Yeah, I was just really confused by it. I am also not an oatmeal connoisseur. I do make overnight oats for myself because I work at a gym and I have to be awake at 3:15 in the morning, and nobody wants breakfast.
And you're a millennial, yeah.
And I'm a millennial, and nobody wants to be eating food at 3:15 in the morning, not voluntarily. You know, nobody wants that.
Of course not.
So I make overnight oats. I take it to work with me, and then I eat it at my desk at like 6 a.m. So that's the only time I really ever eat oats. Even as a kid, I stayed away from oatmeal. I'm a big texture lady with food. I don't eat mushy things. So. I don't eat gloppy things like oatmeal, applesauce, pudding, sour cream, whipped cream, like gloppy, gooey mayonnaise. Don't even get me started on mayonnaise. Gross. All of that kind of texture stuff, if it takes no effort to get down your throat, I don't want it. It's gross.
Yeah.
So I'm not a fan. You just
feel like you're chewing on someone else's vomit.
Yeah, it's just like you just slide it down like you're suffocating almost. Like it's gross. Like a mama bird spitting into your little baby bird mouth. Yeah, I need my food to fight back a little bit. So
I hate that. I hate that. That's crazy.
I need, and I'm vegetarian, so I don't eat meat either. Right. So I need some crunchy fighting back from my vegetables.
Yeah, and your oatmeal.
Oatmeal just does not cut it.
Your meat flavored oatmeal.
Ugh.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like oatmeal fine. I guess I nothing oatmeal. I never really think
You're
of
apathetic.
Oatmeal, to be honest with you, these days. Yeah, I think when I was a child, I think I liked oatmeal.
Sure.
I think my mom made oatmeal for me.
Sure.
But, yeah, I mean, as soon as, when you're making food for yourself, it's not like I'm like, gosh, I need...
Instant oatmeal.
It's just never something I jump back to, but... Maybe this really did have its place. Did you have other thoughts about the book apart from the oatmeal thing?
The oatmeal was the worst offender because it did.
We really just did. It's like a bad comedian. It's like we did 7 minutes just on oatmeal.
Yeah,
before we talked about it.
But it really did just feel like product placement in this book. There was no reason for it. It was weirdly specific. It's never, as far as like what I can get from this book and from what I remember from Books of the Future, it's never talked about again. If this was a real weapon, it could be used against the Yeerks. Why wouldn't they bring it up again? Has oatmeal been abolished in the United States? Like it's illegal to have oatmeal. It's such a confusing turn for this book to take. I think this has become like my least favorite book. Like worse than The Secret.
Oh wow!
I think it's worse than The Secret. Because at least The Secret had a B plot, with the little skunk babies. This didn't even have a B plot. This had just bizarre oatmeal product placement.
I have it ranked pretty low right now, but it's not my lowest. I did find there were to be some points of redemption in the book, primarily just around the sort of lengthy climatic set piece that all takes place in the underground. Spoilers for the underground, I guess. I found it to be engaging on some level of suspense. I felt like there was some stakes. I felt like it had its moments of zaniness. like her wandering into the pantry and seeing Marco just as in gorilla form chewing a banana. Like that stuff works for me.
That was funny. Mm-hmm.
That's stuff that really sells Animorphs for me.
Sure.
Little reminders that the kids are kids. Obviously, there's a fine line where it starts to feel too silly, and then you either have to be the reaction, otherwise nothing works.
Yeah.
Or it can be just super serious, and you have to be the android, or nothing works. And this kind of rides that line somewhere between, which is not bad, but definitely not something worth any sort of accolades. But it definitely, I felt that whole sequence, particularly in the moments when Rachel is sort of separated from the group.
Yeah.
Her minute to minute trying to piece together what's happening, where is everybody, her stepping into a, can't believe I'm saying this, leadership role as an individual was really cool and fun to see. From if there's any character development to be found within this book, it would be that. So it's not my least favorite, but that is me stretching to find some sort of redemption within the book itself. It's very, I mean, I feel like I say the word inconsequential for 90% of these episodes, but this book is very inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. And I struggle to really engage with it beyond just these passing moments of just refusing to offer anything to the audience on any sort of grand scheme of what the Animorphs books are all about. So
yeah, I think for me, I just started checking out after like the mole stuff, and I was just like, really, like, it's gonna take this long, and you're gonna do this, and how can you make sure like you're going to the right place, and how are you gonna bring all this oatmeal in? Like, it just felt like so many bizarre plot points to kind of bring together. It got to the point where I was like, this is just completely unrealistic. Like, I can't imagine this being like a real thing. And I started kind of checking out a little bit. I did like the moments like you mentioned with Rachel kind of questioning her character. And again, I like the commonality that all these characters have in our little gang, where everyone feels like they have a part to play and that they're supposed to play it a certain way for the good of the group, while they're all struggling. Also, I am shocked that none of these kids have like more anxiety than like what they already have, like, or PTSD or that kind of shit. Like, look, the election happened, like we mentioned in the last episode. Also, by the way, Happy New Year to everybody, because that's when this is coming out. Happy New Year. But like, when the election happened, it was a good 4 days of me of just being anxious and crying and sad and angry, just rageful anger. And that was just for an election. Like, I can't imagine going through all...
If you were an ant.
If I was an ant.
Being torn apart limb by limb.
If I was tunneling through the dirt, and I am already claustrophobic. I went down, like, so my dad lives in Kansas, and we went down to these salt caves under, like, 60 feet underground. Terrible anxiety the whole time we were down there.
Yeah.
Even though they're like, school kids come down here every single day and it's field trips and they have fun. And I'm like, yeah, but like, it feels like I could be crushed at any moment under 60 feet of earth. Like, that's terrifying to me. And so like, these kids are in such a good place mentally, despite everything that they've been through. Like, I'm kind of proud of them in a weird way.
Yeah, not for long, baby.
Yeah, not for long, baby.
Wait till I see him. Wait till I see him. Give him the old
1-2
crack rib, you know? Yeah.
You think
Jake when I get my hands?
Oh, you think he's hungry for a little knuckle sandwich?
Yeah, so he's looking a little hungry to me.
Yeah, maybe.
No, I get it. I actually was just having a conversation with one of my very best friends the other day, and we were just talking generally about anxiety and stuff like that, and he was like, he said to me, yeah, I don't feel like you were this anxious as a person when I first met you.
Thank you.
To which I said, I said, yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't know what happened. But it's just prolonged traumas.
Yeah.
You know, you get different traumas in different ways, and there's things that make me anxious that I think don't make the like the layman's person anxious, and there's things that I can handle that I know that other people in my life have experienced that they just are not equipped to handle. And so it's weird, but I think that everybody's superpower is their innate ability to sort of acquiesce to certain situations. And what I will say is that, sure, these kids are surprisingly adept to be able to deal with what they're dealing with. I think that when I was their age, I would have been equally reckless and would not care about most of that stuff until in retrospect. It's not until you get into your 20s that all of a sudden you start to get the war flashbacks of the things that you casually said to people that may or may not have hurt their feelings, that they probably never have thought about, but that you will now stay awake at night all the time, you know? So it's just different strokes for different folks. Like, I'm fascinated by people's phobias lately. That's something that's very interesting to me. The one that I can't pronounce it, but what's the one where you're afraid of, like, giant open ocean?
Oh.
It's like thalassophobia
yeah,
or something
like that. Yeah, just open water.
And I'm like, I look at, like, those pictures that, like, there's on TikTok sometimes it'll pop up and say, like, this phobia defined by pictures, and then I'll look through them and be like, God, these look so cool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why.
Or, like,
I don't know why, but
what is it, tryptophobia, where, like, it's a bunch of small clusters of holes all together, like honeycombs or like holes in a rock.
Get that shit away from me. But
you don't like that shit?
I can't stop looking at it. But I can't stop looking at it, though.
See, that doesn't really scare me, as long as I know, like, the thing is clean and, like, there's not just a bunch of bugs living in it. Like, that doesn't bother me. What bothers me is claustrophobia. I am claustrophobic a little bit. I need...
Do you watch those, what do they call it, spelunking videos?
No,
the guys with, like, the GoPros on the end of sticks
Gianni,
that go through different...
I saw, okay, so I'm going to tell you this right now. This is a surprise. So, well, by the time this comes out, like, we're already going to be preparing for it. But for Christmas, I bought me and my boyfriend a trip to Iceland. We've never been.
Hey!
So we're both super excited to go. It's going to be during Inauguration Week of the United States, because fuck that. And
perfect.
Yeah, so we don't need to be here
Great
that week.
timing.
We don't need to be here that week. So we are just going to go to Iceland and have adventures. And so I was watching videos of things to do in Iceland today. And one of them, the guys were talking about ice caves. And I was like, cool, walking through a glacier. And then he went in with his GoPro, and the ceiling was so low. I was like, no, absolutely not.
Not for you.
I can't do low ceilings, and I can't do underground shit. Like, that stuff terrifies me. I don't like the feeling of not being able to escape or to have a hole where air can come in. Like, the feeling of suffocating under a weight, absolutely terrifying. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Did you ever see The Descent, the movie The Descent?
I've seen bits and pieces of
it.
It looks terrifying. I'm so scared to
awesome.
watch that. That stuff like
Great
that,
film.
and also like body horror stuff, can't do it. Can't do it. Too scary for me.
Yeah. Or did you ever see Buried? The Ryan Reynolds movie.
That's the one.
All takes place inside of a coffin.
No. Gianni, why are you trying to hurt me? Why are you trying to hurt me right now?
Great film.
I can't watch
I don't
that.
know what it is.
Yeah.
You know it's funny. I felt claustrophobic, I think, one time in my life, and it was it was totally unrelated to the actual, like, claustrophobia of it all, and, like, solely relegated to just, like, having a sort of panic attack. And I was sitting in a booth with just two people on either side of it, and I was like, "Hey guys, I'm sweating a lot." And they were like, "Get out of this booth." But it had nothing to do with the action. But that was, like, the only time I ever felt like I was like, "This must be how people with claustrophobia feel."
Yeah.
But But yeah, no, I don't know. I'm fascinated by those things. I have no idea. the things that like get to me. I have no idea why they are the way they are, but they're not like the usual ones.
Yeah.
Until I see a giant cockroach, and then I'm like, oh god,
gross.
You know,
gross.
That's crazy.
Anyway, these kids are probably going to be really fucked up as adults and have a lot of like what was the thing called when people came back from World War I? Shell shocked. They're going to be shell shocked as adults.
Oh, yeah.
Like all this shit is going to come back. So if you have traumas, please go and talk to a therapist, a good therapist who listens to you and offers support to work through this shit. I have a great therapist. I recommend highly finding a good therapist that you vibe with and talking that shit out, because it does help.
I'll be your therapist, listener.
Thanks.
You can write in to our email at morphinbuddies@gmail.com and I'll therapize you.
Yeah, he'll do it.
I'm not trained or specialized whatsoever, but more than happy to give people free advice.
That's very nice. That's very nice. I trust Gianni with my life. I'll send you an email. I'll send you an email later tonight with all of my traumas, just down a giant list.
Yeah.
It might take you a couple days to get through that shit.
When I was 9.
It started when I was born.
It started with the 2016 election.
There we go. Anyway, let's try to get back on the track of the underground with Rachel.
Oh, that's right.
Should we?
We've talked for 20 minutes.
We're just sitting here chatting and vibing about traumas and anxieties and just, you know.
Hey, you could edit this out, or at least pretend that you're going to, and then leave it all in. That's fine.
Yeah,
too.
I'm definitely not putting any of that in, Gianni.
Yes, that's all being
None of
cut
it.
out.
100%.
All of it.
All of it.
Back to the
anyway. So first off, this book starts off, Gianni, I know you're going to be mad. What are they doing, Gianni? Are they because they're bored? Do they decide to use their morphs for selfish desires?
Yeah, that's not the part that bothers me, though. You could take a wild guess about the part that bothered me about this opener.
What was it, Gianni?
So I mean,
what could it be?
Rachel and Marco are trying to convince Jake to use their powers and their excuse is that Axe needs to be exposed to
society,
Earth's culture. That he's been here. Yeah, he's been here for months and hasn't really been indoctrinated into our way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so they want to take him. There is a Planet Hollywood opening. Mm-hmm. They cannot buy tickets, but if they use their morphs, they can go to the event.
Mm-hmm.
And
see all the celebrities.
They all have selfish desires for wanting to go. Rachel wants to see Lucy Lawless, and I think she's fascinated by some of the outfits and stuff, because in case you forgot, Rachel's a model, and they have to remind us, only every couple of every time you see her. And then
can I go down the
Marco,
list of like the celebrities that are supposed to be here?
If you have the list, there's like a million.
I wrote it down because
off to try to get Jake's attention.
Yeah, I wrote this all down because I was like, no way in hell all of these people are going to be there. Like, there's just no. Like, I don't believe any of these people are going to be there. So we got Bruce Willis. We got Demi Moore. We got Lucy Lawless of Xena Warrior Princess fame. We've got Shaq. We've got Jake says no until someone mentions Shaq, and then he's like, I'm in. And then we've also got John Goodman, Naomi Campbell, Ralph Lauren, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's as far as I got in terms of celebrities. And I did like this one part where Marco jokes about Rachel going there dressed in leather and fighting Lucy Lawless to see who wins. And at that point, I wrote in my notes, I was like, I think Marco is going to grow up into a cuck. Like, I think he's got such strong cuck energy in this book. I love Marco. And there's nothing wrong with being a cuck as long as everyone's consenting and you're not hurting anybody or taking advantage of anybody. But he's got cuck energy. Can we just be honest?
listen, and morphinbuddies, we don't kink shame anybody.
No.
That's crazy, though.
It's giving cuck.
He's got some voyeuristic intent with that. That's wild.
For sure.
The only thing that bothers me about this is, and this, along with, 8 or 9 billion other times within this novel, they have to remind me that Jake is the leader, which, if you've listened to this podcast before, I have some semblance of issue with. If you haven't listened to the podcast before, think of it this way. Think of the most annoying thing that someone in your life could say constantly about the most annoying person in your life. Mm-hmm. Think of it like if you have a bad relationship with your mother because you think that she's really domineering, and then everybody around you is like, your mother is just so helpful and wonderful, you would lose your fucking mind. And that's how I feel every time they say that Jake is a leader. Because I want to throw my head through the wall, because he's not, one. Two,
you're being gaslit, Gianni.
Who gave this guy the right? Who gave you?
All of them did. Right? All of them
who
forced
gave
him.
You the right?
All of them forced him in this
position.
True.
Yeah, which never happened. Hey, I've read now 17 of these fucking things. More than that, really.
18.
And I'm here to tell you
19.
I'm here to tell you right now, no they didn't. Okay? Never once.
But they all say they did.
All of the sudden they were just like, oh yeah, by the way, Jake's the leader. And then the very first time it happened, I was like, that's strange. And then every book thereafter, they all agreed upon it, I guess, off screen, to terrorize Gianni. There's no other explanation for it. They're trying to get to me. That's all it is.
They planned it all the way back from 1998.
They retroactively wrote it into these books just to annoy me.
Yeah.
And listen, they call Rachel Xena Warrior Princess a million times throughout these books as well. I'm not saying that one isn't annoying, but at least there's some sense of character dynamic applied to that one, where she kind of reluctantly is Xena Warrior Princess, where only really Marco ever identifies her as that, in like a teasing way, because they maybe have some sort of flirtationship, which we could talk about in a second. But most importantly, it is intrinsically tied to some sort of character identity, or lack thereof. So it's fine. It happens too often, but it's fine, and it's passable, and I can get past it.
Sure.
And the Jake leader thing is just something that everybody in these books agrees on that I don't. And it drives me fucking crazy, because I feel like I'm pointing out different evidence pieces within these books to be like, see, he's not a leader. And then even in his book, he's like, oh, but I'm a leader, but I don't know if I'm very good at it, touching his little index fingers together like a fucking asshole. And I'm like, this guy is not a leader. Why do they keep saying that about him? He doesn't lead anything. Why do they need him to lead? They don't. They just do things, as is evident in this book when Rachel just does stuff without him. But the whole time she's thinking like, man, I'm not good at this. Jake's good at this. No, he isn't. Point out one time. Where's one time where he would do anything that was like a smart plan?
Look, Gianni,
he went and got a rhino at the risk of Axe and and Cassie dying. No, Rachel dying. I don't even know. What are we doing here?
Gianni, I don't see it. I don't see your points. I don't understand the points you're making. I see him as a leader. He's very strong, calm, cool, collected.
I'm gonna have an aneurysm on this podcast. I'm gonna have a stroke.
Everybody, I would like you all to email us explaining all of Jake's leadership qualities so Gianni can see the light.
I just think if your only character, if your only character trait is people telling the audience what you are, then you're not even a character. He just exists. He's just there. He's just a guy, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway. 30 minutes in. I think we're only 4 pages into the book. So
Yeah, we're
let's rattle off some shit that happens real quick. They go to this concert as birds.
And something happens that Gianni wishes Jake would do. Someone tries to commit suicide by jumping out of a building. And
hold on. I am not an advocate for suicide. I just want to make very clear to the listeners out there, if you need help, call me, okay? And you can contact us at morphinbuddies@gmail.com. Or call a crisis line. That's perfectly acceptable. And there's no shame in feeling sad, but the world is better with you in it. That is important to say.
That is very important.
I am only an advocate in suicide if it's Jake. And that needs to be said.
You don't think the world's a better place with Jake in it?
No. I think it's worse. I think the books would be more interesting. I think that the only thing he could really impart to this group would be his absence. And so I'm just saying.
Gianni.
I'm just saying.
Jesus Christ.
I don't mean it. You can cut it out if you
Oh,
want.
no, I'm not.
Cut it out of the episode.
Absolutely not.
All right, good, because I do mean it. Okay, I mean it. I want him
I knew you meant it. I knew you did.
I want him gone. No, okay, if anything's going to jump off of a building, I don't want it to be Jake, the person. I want it to be the idea of Jake. I want it to be the leadership
you want him to have an ego death.
That they... Yes, yeah, that's fine.
So he just needs to do mushrooms. He just needs to do a bunch of mushrooms.
That sounds great. Let him do ayahuasca out with Aaron Rodgers.
Get this kid ayahuasca. Somebody get this kid a handful of mushrooms. Give him an ego death that he will remember for the rest of his life. And then he will come out all the better. Or insane. One of the two. Hopefully better.
Oh my God.
Also, drugs are not a good use of, therapy. Yes, they can help, but they're not the end-all, be-all. Please actually seek out help.
Speak for yourself. I'm going to recommend everybody who emails Morphin Buddies that they need to do more mushrooms.
Oh my God. Actually, I did attend 2 shaman-led mushroom ceremonies for, as therapy at one point. It was crazy. This
episode's going to be 18 hours because I'm
this episode's this episode will be called Sidebar, the episode.
Yeah. Yeah, literally, it's not even an episode. We'll talk about the book in the next one.
All right. Okay. So a guy jumps to his death. He jumps out of the building, and I don't know how, as birds, everyone morphs birds to catch him. I don't know how they are able to hold this guy's weight unless he is very small, like Gianni size, 3'4". Gianni's not. Gianni's 5'8", just like me.
No, you can just say.
What are you?
I paint the picture. Paint the picture for the audience here.
Gianni's 3'5", shaped like a circle, has no feet.
Why not? No
He's
feet.
blind.
Not a single foot to be found. Yeah. He's got no idea what the world looks like.
Oh my God. Okay, now we're having fun. This is good. So they grab him. They fly down towards the water and throw that bitch into the water. And Rachel, he gets trapped in the mud at the bottom of the water. And Rachel's like, oh, let me dive into the water as an eagle. Eagles don't swim, as far as I know. And then she goes underwater. And she starts morphing right next to this guy, back into human. Right next to him, which I'm like, ma'am, find a bush. Find a bush.
No.
Find a shrub.
No, come on.
Find a tree. Find a Barbara bush.
One's gonna notice.
I don't know where you're going to go. Find somewhere else to morph so you're out of sight.
Nope. She'd rather not.
So someone sees her come up from
she morphs into
air.
a dolphin, right?
Yeah, she starts getting into... Oh, she also has really hateful thoughts about suicidal people, which I'm like, okay, this is where the how we used to think back in the late 90s. She says a lot of really not very nice things about suicidal people, which I was like, okay, that's fine. We let's not think like that anymore and move forwards. She ends up saving him. His name is George Edelman.
Yes.
And the way she saves him as a dolphin, she pushes him towards the shore where Arnold Schwarzenegger resuscitates him. And then the newspaper headline the next day is Terminator becomes Resuscitator. Which is a great headline. Wow. Great headline. I love that.
Wow.
So, okay, cool. Then we cut to the mall. Axe is eating a cinnamon bun. And he halts everyone's conversations. It was too late for the plate. I think he ate the plate that the cinnamon bun was on. And everyone's like, well, okay.
I might have just glossed over for that because I don't even remember any of that. Well, I
barely remember.
The only thing I remember is that we finally get like a sequel moment to the reaction, which everybody in all of these books has conveniently forgot about since it happened. I didn't. I still want to go back. But I just remember her being in her house and being like, yeah, the house still isn't fixed.
Yeah.
And they all think it was some sort of boulder that crashed through it.
Even though there's no boulder to be found. No boulder to be found.
All it did was just make me want to go back and read the reaction again. I was like, God, a simpler time. You know? The world was a better place.
Better place at the reaction. And then, so then Rachel's mom comes home. She is, since she's a lawyer, she's representing George in court. And George's family is being George's family is bringing George to court, saying that he's nuts, he's crazy, because George is talking about, I have a Yeerk in my head, and it's an alien species, and they're taking over, and blah. And so Rachel tells... So
obviously Rachel is like,
interesting.
Need to investigate this.
Interesting. So she tells the gang, everybody starts making nut jokes. And then at one point Jake tries to make a joke. He's like, because going into this would be nuts. I said, because going into this would be, you know what, all right, we don't have to.
And then I threw the book out the window at that point. 'Cause I said,
I actually loved that.
You're not funny!
To me, I thought that was a great little Jake moment. I want him to be the guy that tries to make jokes, and he just never lands. And I think that's
tries
hilarious.
To have the roles of other people in the group.
Yeah, and he's just not
like
funny.
Character trait.
And Cassie just like taps him on the shoulder and says, "That's enough, Jake. Let's go home."
Yeah, shush. Hey.
Shush.
Hey. Oh, big guy.
It's okay, big guy.
Oh, yeah, you. Oh, you try to make a joke. Oh,
it's okay, Jake. So then they decide they're gonna go into the asylum that George is now staying at and try to get information out of him. Be like, do you really know about the Yeerks, even though you're talking about them?
I don't know if this all needed to be this long, but I do want to just briefly just pause on it real quick because there's something about this book that really started to grind my gears, and this was like the first instance of it.
Yeah.
And then there's another one later, which we'll get to in the plot because it's just a craziest like little plot element that we'll get to when we cross that bridge. But there's something this book starts to do. Somehow more than other books, or maybe I noticed it more than other books in the past, but we're now at a point where, you know, we're now starting to infringe on the knowledge that we have from previous entries. And for example, the guy is talking about, there's a Yeerk in my head, right? We've heard other people in a previous entry being literally taken off the street shouting about something being inside their heads. And we have an entire chat room, which is, and I cannot stress this enough, the only hit on Google where people are talking about Yeerks being in your heads. So, I have to wonder, as a lawyer in the 90s, why is Rachel's mom not picking up the damn laptop?
Yeah.
They didn't have a laptop back then, but I'm saying it to articulate a point. But why are we not picking up that computer device and giving it a little goog, you know, little Google?
At the very least, a Yahoo.
Nice. Ask Jeeves, you know?
Ask Jeeves.
Remember that guy?
AOL.
He was around.
Maybe Netscape.
Heard of him? Heard of her? Huh?
Jeeves.
Anyway, it's just now we're starting to spit in the face of previous entries, and then that's where I start to start to lose me, right? Because then I just start to think of the books as like just individual pieces and not part of a cohesive whole.
Yeah.
And honestly, that makes them worse. It does, because if they're not stacking on each other, then they're inconsequential, and I can just cut them out of the canon, you know, which is our overarching complaint with this book. But anyway, sorry, continue.
So Rachel, Marco, and Jake decide to morph seagulls and fly into a food truck that's being driven to the asylum, and they're gonna be in the food truck, and then they're gonna morph into humans, and then morph into cockroaches, and try to sneak their way as cockroaches into the food truck by latching onto the food.
What a convoluted as all fuck plan.
You could have just flown straight to the asylum as seagulls.
Just go right to it. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
there. They needed a tarantula adventure,
do a fly, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like anything.
Yeah.
Do whatever. Yeah, but so then they're in this truck, and then they like demorph out of it, and then they morph into roaches, and then as Rachel's morphing into a roach, she notices a tarantula. Tarantula is like snags her, and it's like going after her. And then the movers come in. They're like, "Oh my god, it's a spider!" And they try to like stomp them. It's this whole crazy action sequence where everything goes nuts. And she only gets saved at the last second because Tobias swoops down as a bird and eats the tarantula.
Just a bird.
And then the chapter like caps off with him being like, tasty," which I did not need. Thanks.
Not as bad as I thought.
That. God, you little freako. Anyway, no, sorry. I like Tobias, but like, what a moment. What a way for you to show out, kid. Like, didn't need it.
I mean, I kind of like that moment because I feel like he's getting more comfortable now of being like, yeah, I eat animals, so whatever, guys.
Yeah, he's like, I am a bird.
Just a bird. He's just
anyway.
a bird, Gianni. Just a bird.
Yeah,
so then
that the truth.
They climb through pipes. Somehow they follow the correct pipe into exactly George's room, or right next to George's room. And I loved this moment where Rachel lands like in a bathroom and she's demorphing, and then a guy comes in while she's halfway between roach and human, and he looks at her and she's like, "Oh, excuse me, is George nearby?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, are you real?" And she's like, No, don't worry about me, just a hallucination. And he's like, "Okay." And he closes the door and he goes to get George, which I thought was funny, but also the whole "it's a dream"
lunacy.
Like,
yeah, they really they feel like they can get away with the reaction in every one of these now. And here's the thing: unless you are unless the whole plot is that level of crazy, that you can't quite get away with it every time. But you know, whatever. It's a passing moment. It uses one of my least favorite tropes, I think, in all of fiction, which is just like, crazy person is crazy.
Yeah.
Easy to convince crazy person that crazy person is crazy. But whatever. It's a moment that came and went. It got a little chuckle out
campy
of me, and that's fine. And then they go to George, and he says some absolutely banana shit because they're most. She basically, she's like posing as an assistant to his lawyer, and he believes her for some reason.
Yeah.
And then
dressed in a leotard.
She asks him outright. Yeah, and then she asks him outright about with no shoes on, by the way. And she asks him outright about Kandrona rays. She's like, "How is the Yeerk still alive without Kandrona rays?" And he's like, looks at her slack jawed and in awe, like someone finally believes me or understands what I'm saying. And he theorizes, he's like, "Andalite?" And she's like, yes. Andalite. Tell me now the information. And he says that the Yeerks discovered, by accident, that eating specifically maple and ginger flavored instant oatmeal would be enough to survive without the Kandrona rays for the whatever, I think it's 3 days, right? That they're supposed to be able to survive. So the oatmeal can basically tide them over. But the oatmeal had a side effect because it was extremely addictive for Yeerks, and it drove them insane. And so, for whatever reason, the Yeerks cannot resist becoming addicted to this specific flavor.
You know what would have been way better in this book? Is if
anything?
Is if they learned that information, went through all this stuff in the book, and then it's not true.
Uh-huh.
They find out it's just not true.
Sure.
Like,
sure.
Again, we're having a thing where it's like, oh, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, just like the toilet one in, what was the one where they had the Yeerk infested horses? The Unknown?
Oh,
no, that wasn't
the
Unknown.
Yeah.
Was that the Unknown?
Yeah, where they went in with the horses
in the military camp,
the UAP barn.
Oh yeah. You're right. Yeah, if it would have been a book in the same vein as The Unknown, sure, I'll accept it.
Yeah, why not?
You know, why not? It's fun. It's a little adventure time. But the fact that it's so specific and they play it so realistically, quote unquote, it's just quote, bizarre. Unquote. There's no explanation of the science behind it. There's no explanation as to why it's just this flavor and just instant oatmeal. Because there were a couple points where the gang is talking about this, and they're like, no. It's instant oatmeal, only maple and ginger. And that's it. And it's like...
They also act like a bunch of fucking idiots at one point, because then they're talking about it. They're like, and instant, whatever that means. I'm like, what? Like, you're... How old? We know what instant is.
I know you had oatmeal at some point in your life. You had to have.
Well, what are we talking about here?
And then Cassie gets upset. She starts losing her shit for a moment. She, like... I can't remember what exactly it was that set her off. Something about when they were talking about the oatmeal and like making Yeerks addicted to the oatmeal, and she didn't think like maybe it wasn't right, or like, oh, we're just gonna like make all these people go insane. And Jake's like, well, we're in a war, Cassie. Like
I think the fear is, I think the more accurate fear, I guess the more appropriate one, is kind of how Axe frames it, but I still don't think they quite land on the point. But
yeah.
Because I think that what he says is like, the worry is essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the Yeerks then survive without the Kandrona rays, which would make them like in the human hosts for longer, right?
Right.
Theoretically.
Right.
So, I guess that to me seems scarier than well, we're gonna make them crazy. That doesn't seem very ethical. Like, I give a fuck. Like, they gave any shits about any of the people that they took over the heads of. And this also bugs me, because this is the only time that we mention the previous entry where we had met Visser 3's twin. Mm-hmm. And I had expressed in that episode where we were talking about, what a frustrating lack of conclusion we really came to about how to handle that situation appropriately. And this just kind of seemed like a retread with a less important perspective put on it, because then they're like asking themselves like, oh, how can we, I don't know if we can really risk them all becoming crazy. And who gives a shit? There's a guy out there who's vigilanteing the Yeerk Batman, sucking these things out of people's heads, raw dogging it, and we're worried about what? We're worried about getting them a little goofy sometimes. Give me a break,
And there's no reason why these people can't recover afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know anything about it.
No, we don't.
We literally know nothing about it. All we know is that this one guy is crazy, and the Yeerk in his head is also theoretically crazy.
Yeah. So
who knows?
So the gang,
he could have an aneurysm tomorrow. Well, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. So the gang's like, okay, yeah, we got to figure out what to do about this. Rachel goes to bed, has a terrible nightmare about being in the Yeerk pool, and very spooky. Right. Then Tobias found an entrance to the Yeerk pool at a McDonald's, and you have to walk into the McDonald's and say, I would like a Happy Meal with extra happy. And
which sounds like what you would do to solicit sex at a McDonald's, not a Yeerk pool. So I'm shocked
Gianni,
that they left that in.
Yeah.
But they did. So
you want a
that's
little
how
extra
they do
happy
it.
there, Gianni?
So the craziest moment in the entire book comes up in about 4 seconds here, because they basically they go to follow these guys into like the sort of entrance, which is I guess in the back of some sort of secret refrigerator door thing, whatever. So they go through it and they start hearing this voice and alarm that's saying, unauthorized
entry, whatever,
unauthorized whatever, and Axe is like, we need to leave immediately, because he hears the voice say something about a GLEAT biofilter, which apparently destroys all life forms whose DNA is not entered into the computer's controls. Now, not once does anyone in the group at any point in time say to each other, that would be awfully useful if we got our hands on one of those and programmed it to kill all Yeerks.
That's a genius idea, Gianni. But they are children.
What do you
They don't think like that. They're children.
It reminds me of the... I'm sorry, I'm going to slander J.K. Rowling again for a little bit, but who cares?
She's constant slander in this podcast.
But
it's
the thing with the J.K. Rowling... It's the time turner thing, where if you have something introduced into the world that is that all capable, then there's nothing to say that I can't just go back in time and kill Voldemort before he ever kills Lily and James Potter or whatever the hell, to stop all of the events that happen in all of those books. And Dumbledore just sits on this and then gives it to a third grader. And so, obviously...
Third grader?
The audience is supposed to be like, that's crazy. Why would they? And it's never addressed again. And and here's the thing too. You may be sitting there saying, the time turner clearly has blah 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 blah, whatever lore you're reaching into that goes beyond the confines of that book. That's fine. But it has a limitation on how far back you can go, Gianni. Okay, fine. I say to you, why can't we use the time turner any number of other times? We could save Sirius Black's life. We could, and I mean, now I'm just.
I was going to say
the
that's
whole
a spoiler,
series for you.
but yes.
But, how many people in the war that could we have saved if we just are exploiting the advantageous position of something this powerful, right? And it's because it's nonsense. It's a MacGuffin that's designed for the convenience of that plot. And listen, I love Prisoners of Azkaban. I think that's actually a really good book. As an individual novel. As a greater whole of the total of that series, it weakens the entirety of that series.
Wow.
And I feel the same way about the GLEAT biofilter, because how in the fuck are we sitting on this information for how many books?
Especially since Axe knows what it is. He knows what it does. You're telling me Axe and all his computer genius can't figure out a way to reroute it to like change DNA and set it across all sensors?
Dude.
Axe, what are we doing here?
Yeah, dude.
What are we doing, Axe?
That's his whole thing. And I mean, look, he's canonically, like 15 or whatever?
Probably.
And so I get it if it didn't cross his mind, but you know whose mind it absolutely should have crossed? Everybody that's been at war with the Yeerks forever. You could literally just funnel them into a planet, get all of these GLEAT biofilters all over the place, eradicate the Yeerks, Yeerk army gone.
But, like, will it also eradicate the human attached to the Yeerk? What are we going to do about Thom?
Why would it? Why would it? It says
any life force that isn't the
it says all life forms whose DNA is not entered into the computer controls.
It's true.
So you could literally program it to completely preserve the DNA of the human species and not the Yeerk living inside of their head. Problem solved.
Wait, can it penetrate through the body though and kill the Yeerk inside the body without killing the body? Like, that's my question. Because
why would it not? I mean,
if it can't, though, they could just, I don't know, go inside somebody and get through that way.
Because it's not, it's programmed for DNA specifically, right?
Yes.
So why would it? So if it's programmed to protect the DNA inside of your own skull, but then there's DNA inside of there that doesn't match the DNA inside your own skull. Why would it affect it would just affect the Yeerk? And listen, if they do reason it that way,
but
fine.
If it's attached to
fine.
you.
If they do reason it that way, totally fine.
Uh-huh.
All we have to do then is go into a little Yeerk pool, plop the sucker down, and leave. Who cares?
That's true.
They're all there. They're coming out of the brains anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever. We just put them out in all the Yeerk pools all across the globe, and then we're eradicating them. We go into the Yeerk freighter, starship, whatever they call them, the bug fighters. We pop them in there. We pop them in everywhere. We pop them on the Yeerk home planet. I don't give a shit. We pop them anywhere Yeerks are amassed that they aren't inside of something's skull. If that's the reason that we're not doing this, then I don't see the fucking reason.
If there's any biologists listening to our podcast, explain to us, would this work? Would this not work? Would Gianni's point stand? Would a body be destroyed? How quickly can things sequence DNA and desequence it, I suppose?
It's not like I come to the Animorphs books for science. All due respect.
Wait,
I'm just saying.
Okay. Go ahead. No, go ahead. I interrupted you.
No. All I was saying is just that, like, if we have the ability to use this thing or potentially use this thing, then we at least need to address why we can't.
Correct.
Otherwise, it's a major plot hole that just exists in the series.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay. So every time the Animorphs acquire a new morph, that changes their DNA or it adds to their DNA. Does that mean they have to keep updating their DNA for the biofilter in order to not get zapped?
Does it add to their DNA? I thought they could just access the DNA.
Yeah, but I would assume the DNA like pairs together so they work cohesively, because it's part of them
but it
now.
It exists in that Z space, right? When they're not actually using it, so it doesn't even exist on their person, right?
Any physicists out there, you can email us at morphinbuddies@gmail.com. Please give us some answers in this episode of Sidebar, the podcast with some Animorphs. Anyway.
So
all that aside.
They're like, how do we get into... So they're like, we can't get past this GLEEP biofilter, obviously. So they're like, we need a new morph. They go to Cassie's barn. Conveniently, she has a mole, which they haven't morphed into yet. They all acquire this mole morph.
Yes.
And Rachel's the first to test out the mole morph, and lo and behold, moles really like to dig, apparently. And so she just goes little mole nuts, just digging into the dirt. They pick her up out of it, and then she's like, whoa, I lost myself to the mole.
Yeah. I do want to also point out, moles, in case you've never seen a mole before, they're literally like maybe 2 to 3 inches long. They are tiny, gray... No, they're not. They're gray little fuzzy guys. Have you ever seen like a fuzzy little gray mole?
I would have stepped on them.
They're so cute, and they got big old clomping hands ready to dig.
They look awful.
No, they're adorable. They're soft.
horrifying.
I tried to save one as a kid. My dog found one in the yard, and I picked it up and I brought it inside, and I said, "Can we keep it?" My mom's like, "No, you got to put him back." And I said, "Okay."
No, you got to put him down, is what.
No, he was cute. He didn't hurt anybody, Gianni. I would rather be a mole.
No.
Anyway, so yeah, they're tiny little creatures. They decide they're gonna just try to dig down into the Yeerk pool as these tiny 2 to 3 inch long creatures, which is going to take forever.
So long. And they even say it takes a super long time, but it does.
Yeah.
They get down there. They end up falling through some sort of barrier or something and into a cave that's littered with bats.
Yeah.
They then decide to morph into the bats and basically start to navigate around this cave. They then get spotted by some sort of hunter robot thing that starts shooting them indiscriminately as they enter into this space. And it ends up shooting off one of Rachel's wings, and she ends up falling into the Yeerk pool.
As a bat.
And the Yeerks think that she's just a dead bat, because they're, I guess, blind in this Yeerk pool environment, and they don't actually go into her brain.
Yeah, she's also too
small. So she's able to... Yeah, so she's able to morph back into an ant, and basically try to make a quick getaway. She ends up getting onto somebody's like shirt or something, and then makes a big old jump and ends up landing in a storeroom.
Yes.
Where she also finds a Dracon beam of her own. She sets the beam to stun.
She's like, I think this is it.
Blasting.
And then I started blasting.
Then she walks in, she starts blasting. She sees a Hork-Bajir, she crumbles him right to the ground.
Heck yeah.
She's like, I love this thing.
And then someone's
she sees
like,
a woman,
hey.
she crumbles her too.
Yeah, she's just like, pew, 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 pew. Like, anybody that comes in, she's like, pew, done. And then she steals the clothes of one of them.
Takes her blazer. Yeah. Yeah, she literally takes her blazer, and I think the almost exact quote is because she's like, I want to look good. This is going to be my first entrance into the Yeerk pool. And so then she's wandering around.
Being cool.
She sees Axe, and he's in his Andalite form, and he's basically being, like, dragged away by a bunch of Hork-Bajir. So she follows the trail and starts to hear Marco talking to her, telling her about like how they've caught Jake and Axe, and I can't
almost
remember if
everybody
Tobias was also a part of this as well. Not Cassie is like the only important part that I really remember, but this is where it all starts to get a little bit chaotic for me. But what I remember distinctly is there's some woman who wanders up to her at some point and is like, yes, Visser 3 is on his way. And she's like, yes, me too. I'm excited to see Visser 3. And she's like, that woman was crazy. And then she ends up basically bumping into Cassie.
Yeah. She hears about 200 pounds of oatmeal being confiscated by the Yeerks into a barn somewhere nearby.
Yes.
And so she's like, Cassie, we gotta go get those instant oats. And Cassie's like, you got it, Buster. And then Visser 3 flies in on his bug fighter. Cool.
He's like, where are these Andalites? They're all pretending to. They're both pretending to be controllers. And Rachel's brilliant idea. She just like turns the gun on the Hork-Bajir that are behind her, and she starts blasting them. And she's like, they're Andalites.
Andalite here. And then she and Cassie take off. And Visser 3's like, who's shooting?
Which absolutely rocks.
Yeah.
So then they end up going into
a kitchen pantry.
This sort of area, and Marco's in there chewing on a banana in gorilla morph. And he's like, where you guys been? I've been trying to contact you or whatever. And Rachel's like, they're all after us. We're gonna have to fight our way out of here. But we should go and get the oatmeal. It's nearby. So she morphs into an elephant.
Heck yeah. Slams through a wall.
Marco in gorilla morph grabs the Dracon beam and starts blasting.
Just blasting.
So they're just running through with a gorilla with a gun and an elephant, just blasting people away.
I think Cassie turns into a wolf for battle morph.
She's
biting people. I think she goes wolf. She goes wolf mode. It
sounds right.
And then Rachel grabs the Visser by the waist. Visser 3 is in his Andalite form. Rachel, as an elephant, just picks his ass up, tosses him into a Yeerk pool, and says, I'm gonna...
Well, she gets cut pretty brutally,
she does. Yeah, she gets real cut up. And then Marco throws a barrel of the oatmeal into the Yeerk pool, but because the barrel's like watertight, nothing's getting out yet. And Rachel's like, hey, look, we've got the Dracon beam pointed at that barrel, and we're gonna shoot it and let the oatmeal leak into the Yeerk pool unless you give us our friends. And he's like, no, I won't do it. And they're like, all right, boom, boom, boom. They shoot the barrels.
Well, so at first, if I recall correctly, before he gets thrown in there, they go to shoot. They threaten him to shoot. They're going to shoot the barrel.
Yeah, you're right.
And Visser 3 notably is like, fuck it, 500 or so of the Yeerks are going to go crazy. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's worth it to capture you guys. And then that's when they throw him in, and they're like, but you care about yourself.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
that's how they do it.
As they're trying to get out, they notice that Visser 3 is morphing to try to be something that's not going to just innately suck up what's in the Yeerk pool and also get addicted to the oatmeal. So that's when they shoot it and then make their big getaway.
That's such a
so
bizarre
they all go
sentence.
running.
Get addicted to the oatmeal.
Yeah, you know what? Here we are, right? We're how many books in?
17, 18, 19. Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the day that they run into the president of the United States.
I can't wait.
And they're like, Mr. President, the Yeerks are here. Like, then it's really going to go off the rails. I can't wait. But until that day, this is the craziest we're going to get, right? So, they make their big getaway. Rachel then collapses in elephant morph because she's losing too much blood. They have her demorph, and then this thing that Visser 3 is coming after them. They're worried that she's worried that she's going to be seen in a human morph, and they're basically all like bearing down on them. And Rachel then takes the Dracon beam, shoots it at the ceiling at max power so that the ceiling collapses and has everybody morph into moles. And then that'll be how they get out. So the ceiling collapses, she morphs into a mole, then crawls her way out. She says it takes her so long that she has to literally carve out a space for her human body to go so that she can demorph, then remorph into a mole again, and then crawl back out. But she gets there. They all get there. And
at the end of the day,
they finally get out.
Yeah, and that's kind of it. I mean, then Rachel's mom comes in. She's like, "Where have you been all day?" Also, George is still talking about the Yeerks, and that's kind of it. We don't really have like a tie-in ending for George, really. He's just
no. Well, the tie-in was that basically Rachel comes home, gets a call, or her mom gets a call. And on the phone, she's like, "That's really weird." She takes a bunch of notes. She says that, "Oh, my client escaped, and apparently said as he was escaping, this talking grizzly bear told him to leave, and to forget, or to not attempt suicide again, and to basically like pretend this Yeerk stuff never happened." And
okay.
Rachel just kind of reasons privately to the reader, like, "I had to do something, but I was a little tired, and I couldn't think of any other better ideas." And so she did that, and that's the resolution.
No.
And then, and importantly, it leaves off with that like final line, basically saying, "And that was the first and last time that oatmeal was ever used in a Yeerk fight." You're like, okay, great.
So bizarre. This book just ping pongs so much in between those points. Like, honestly, I don't even want to put this in a TV series. I just want to cut the whole thing out. None of it matters. There's no real character development. Nothing is memorable. It all just does not matter. Yeah. It just makes me mad.
I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that I don't think any of this is necessary whatsoever. I think you can find. I think the few gems of this that I do like, the sort of underground biome, I think we can find somewhere else. I think we can have that in another episode somewhere else. And I think that anything that you enjoy about, Rachel's little character development here of really leaning into the Xena warrior princess, the person who's impulsive but is able to be assertive enough to kind of get away. I think all of that stuff can be found elsewhere. Yeah. The moment of her shooting the Dracon beam and the ceiling collapsing and them all turning into moles, I think we could put that into a better episode somewhere else. So I'm fine with pretty much scrapping this whole thing if we're making a TV series. Yeah. I don't think this is the book that'll be long lasting in most of our memories. I think at best you have an homage to this particular style of oatmeal somewhere else. You have Thom eating this oatmeal or something in the morning, and we never make actual mention of it in the TV show otherwise. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, just have a little tiny tie-in of Thom eating oatmeal. And then that just being like a little wink to the viewer of like, we remember this book, but we're not gonna do it. I know, we're better than that.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's kind of all the notes I have. I just got so annoyed with this book. I was just like, I just want it as far away from me as possible.
And I'm absolutely not mentioning a Gleep biofilter ever again, unless it's going to be coupled with the words, we should use that.
Mm-hmm. Or, like, even if we don't use it, you should say, we should use it, and then Axe is like, I can't figure out, this technology is a little bit harder. Like, just something where, like, he can't figure out how the technology works, or it just doesn't work for them. You know, like, just something like that. So, anyway, okay, so that's the end of notes. So next book, Mr. Gianni, book 18, The Decision. I think this is probably the most cursed cover you're gonna find.
Really?
Yeah.
Ew. Yuck.
Yes. Yeah.
He's a mosquito.
It's Axe turning into a mosquito, folks. I don't like it.
Yo. Unfortunately, it makes me realize how close this like Andalite drawing is to a mosquito in it, because he doesn't have far to go, but his little uncanny human eyes are so weird to me. His human eyes, his human hands are really freaking me out on this cover.
In the third one, his hands, like, just the way that they're shaped and the arms, like, I don't like that.
That like style of limb right there. That's what I'm terrified
style of
the
limb.
most. That like when I was talking about extra long limbs that I think I was hunted in a past life. That's kind of the thing that I
the
imagine
delicate
right
wrist.
there.
You can still kind of see the hand in the fourth picture a little bit. You can kind of see the palm a little bit.
I hate it. I don't like it.
What's the tagline on that bad boy?
Oh, it looks like it's change a little, change a lot, just change. What is that? What the fuck kind of tagline is that? That's crazy.
So, what do you, what clues does that give you?
What the hell? I don't even know. What do you mean? The decision could be literally anything. It could be the most benign. That's so funny. I don't even... Well, clearly there's going to be a decision. I guess it could be about anything. I wish it was about, like, whether or not to kill Visser 3. Maybe it just takes us back in time to when times were simpler, when we were reading the Alien. They just jump back... And then it kills Visser 3, and it's like, oh, this could have happened. It's like a what-if scenario. Maybe that's the whole book. That's my theory.
Do you want a
Rooting
clue?
for that.
Would you like a hint?
Sure, why not?
Okay. We visit zero space.
Huh?
Maybe. Huh? And maybe we get to visit another alien species. Not a brand new one.
Another one?
Not a brand new one.
Oh, okay.
One that we've met before.
Okay. Okay.
Which one do you think it is?
What is it, like he sees his family again or something?
Could
I
be.
I don't know how they go to zero space, so I don't know what that's all about, but I guess he goes home. And it's like, the decision is whether or not to leave home again and go back to Earth or not. Maybe it's something like that.
Could be.
That seems like a worthwhile decision.
Maybe it's the decision whether or not to stay in zero space.
Just float out there forever.
It's so much easier just to float around in a place with no oxygen.
Just hang out there. All right. Well, my prediction, this either goes really poorly as a book or really well. So I guess we will find out. I do like Axe books, though, so hopefully...
Yeah, Axe books are fun.
We've only really had one, so... I liked the one we had.
Yeah, we did have a good one. Let's hope this one is... well, I don't think it's hard to be better than the one that we just read. So... No offense to K.A. Applegate and Michael Grant. Look, we love you guys, but, like, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Yeah, big fan, but hey, they can't all be winners. When you're dealing with 50 some odd friggin' books, we're bound to find a few missteps along the way. I get it.
Correct. So if you would like to email us any thoughts, opinions, any reasons as to why you think Jake is a great leader and Gianni is wrong, you can email us at morphinbuddies@gmail.com. That's morphinbuddies @gmail.com.
Yeah, please do. I should say, because I guest hosted on another podcast called Below the Line, and I plugged this show when I was on Below the Line, so I should in turn plug Below the Line while I'm on this show. So
what's Below the Line about, Gianni?
Yeah, if you have any interest, Below the Line is it's run by a very dear friend of mine and a great podcast host who goes by Skid. And Skid used to work as a second AD on many different Hollywood projects. Chief among them, and my favorite one to mention, is the Tim Burton Planet of the Apes. So with Skid's retirement from that business, also coupled fatal curiosity to basically try to communicate with a lot of people that work below the line or behind camera on a bunch of different TV shows and movies of the modern age. So I guess hosted on a few episodes, but the most recent one where I plugged Morphin Buddies was on an episode that we did for The Penguin. So we interviewed Brian Beatty, who is the head of hair for The Penguin, the miniseries on HBO Max. So if you enjoyed The Penguin, I would highly recommend checking that out. There might be tidbits on there that would enthuse Batman fans or what have you. So definitely check that out. If not, there's plenty of other episodes of Below the Line, and you're bound to find something that would pique your interest. So definitely check it out.
Take a listen. Show. Lend them your earlobes. Well, I guess your ear canals, because you don't listen with your lobes. Unless you have really weird lobes. You know, those weird lobe-having freaks.
I don't know what your lobes are like. I am blind, as was aforementioned.
That's right. 3'4". Yeah. Did I say blind?
Yeah. Yes. Just no legs.
No legs. No exactly. Feet. You have legs, just no feet.
No feet, just legs. Yeah, no feet, just legs. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. No feet, hands.
Hands, definitely hands, but no arms. Just
no hands in place of feet. Just you got hands and then hands.
Ew, you freak! You double-handed freak. What the heck?
Yeah, just one.
Ew.
Wide stepping on hands. Gave everybody a new nightmare to leave with.
That's the best. That's the best. All right, so you guys can email us. Please check out Below the Line and support smaller podcasts because they all deserve to be listened to. And I'm sure this one is great.
Yeah.
Okay. Peace out. We hope everybody enjoyed our conversations and our ramblings and our sidebars. And we appreciate your listening ears. So have a lovely new year. And set some nice goals for yourself. Do something nice, you know?
Yeah. Big kisses.
Big kisses.
Love you.
Bye.